logging in, I just want to take a moment and review our mission statement and our core values. And I do this not because I want to bore you every week, but I wanted this to anchor to the way that we address going about our business. And I think all of these core values and our mission statement will help us to do better financially and serve more of our community. So our mission statement is change lives and build communities by empowering agents and clients to make sound real estate decisions. I keep wanting to find a way to improve upon that, but I think it basically says everything. Our core values are integrity, okay? And that's number one for a reason. Be open and transparent, have the courage to do the right thing while always respecting others. 2, passion, love what you do it with purpose, and do it with hustle. Leadership, love what you do, lead by example, accept personal responsibility, and stop blaming other people. Okay. Caring, embrace a culture of pride and dignity in all that we do. I think this one is tremendously underestimated. If people understand how much we care about the outcome, and I don't know if it was one of these meetings or if it was an individual office meeting, but I shared the experience of sitting across the table with one of your colleagues on a listing conversation. And I just felt that they were so fixated on money. How much was the listing fee? What are you going to charge? How much can I ask for it? And, I took a step back and I just said, look, if we decide to do business together today, okay, the relationship doesn't end when your house gets sold. And if all I ever did was sell your house, respectfully, agent and myself would like to just withdraw from entertaining working with you, because we want to make sure that we do a job that exceeds your expectation and that we can be the go-to person for you. We care about the outcome. We're not just in it for the commission. And I got to tell you, when we changed the narrative, we moved the dialogue to that, the whole attitude changed. And I think for most of us, we're not just in this for making one short, quick commission. We're in this for, the long haul. We're in this for the business relationship. Does that make sense? I'm going to call in Julio because I see you in the corner and you're all dressed up.
Yes, it does.
Right. So, and having the communication, basically sets the expectation that, hey, we're not just in it to make $11,000, $20,000, $30,000. We're in it to build this relationship and serve you. Accountability. As I get back into offices and I see people who aren't satisfied with their result, usually it's something that we're doing that's putting us in that result, and we need to own the outcome. We can't just blame the universe on our lack of performance or lack of success. Abundance is recognizing the unlimited possibility. And when you do that, you behave differently if you don't operate from a scarcity mindset. Innovation. I love this one personally because as I look at some of the challenges that we have, it forces me to pivot, evolve, embrace, and be a catalyst for change, all for the good of our industry and our consumer. One of the examples of this innovative pivot is the mindset or repositioning the mindset of buyers. Okay. And the example I want to give you here is if we start to work with a new buyer, the market is, for the most part, in all of our areas, highly competitive. And a lot of us are saying we need to lose 2, 3, 4 properties before we're able to be successful. If we pivot and we share with the consumer, hey, Julio, I took the liberty of running some of the numbers in Coral Springs, and of all the homes that have sold in the first 2 weeks, which I would consider the desirable ones, the average list to sale price is about 106, or 6% above the asking. So Julio, I know that you and your wife are looking to spend about 450 or looking in that price range. If we find you a home listed for 450, I just wanted to be prepared that in order to be the successful purchaser, you're likely to have to be closer to 500. You know, are you okay entering this competitive market? Right?
Yes, I guess I would be.
All right. I just wanted to make sure before we did this because yeah, I really feel an obligation to share that with you. Now, does anybody feel that that is anybody feel that that is inappropriate or out of character with our value proposition or core values? Is that good for the consumer?
It's great. You're just being honest. You're being transparent.
Right. And is it going to help them not lose 2 to 6 properties before they're the successful bidder?
Avoid frustrations, yes.
And based upon, you know, the best available knowledge, I believe that in 6 months, if it takes them 3 to 6 months to buy the house, the price is going to be higher, not lower, based upon the macro trends. So that's where I think, Julio, this is a great practical example of being innovative. For me, innovative used to have the connotation of like technology, like we're innovating, like this is innovative technology, but this is an innovative mindset, an innovative communication technique. And then the last one is leverage. Maximize results and build a business that serves agents and clients by using the talents of others to better serve and enjoy a work-life balance. You know, this one I've been preaching for years. And this is, if you're this person that, hey, I have to be at the home inspection because my client expects me to be there, you need to reevaluate that, because if you're doing that, you're unable to serve more clients appropriately. Okay, so you are not meeting, you know, your financial model or your moral obligation to help more people. Because I think there's a lot of people in the industry that aren't as committed, experienced, don't have as much integrity, don't have the core values and the mission that we have. So not only does it help us financially, but I think people should be privileged to work with somebody in this team, somebody on our team. So that is a recap of our core values. I'm encouraging everybody to put in the chat box some of your listing objections that make you somewhat uncomfortable. Okay, like where are you not hitting the cover off the ball when somebody says this to you? And if I can, at least for this part, if you can put yourself on camera just so I can see a raising of hands, because I want to do a little informal survey here. So, and this is where I want you to be honest with yourself. Who feels when you go on a listing presentation that maybe it got you question that you're uncomfortable answering? Is there anybody, if you feel like there might be a got you question that's a fair question that somebody could ask you, raise your hand. Okay. So I don't know if everybody's just not raising their hand here. So I'm gonna use the inverse. If there are no got you questions that somebody can ask you, you feel like you're 110% confident, raise your hand. Okay, so it looks like I just see only Dennis. So it's Dennis. Oh no, I see Heather and Darius. So there's 3 of us out of we're almost up to 60 now. So I'm going to say that if you have a fear of a got you question, and sometimes these got you questions might be, you know, and I'm going to, Dennis, since you were the first hand raiser, if you can unmute yourself for a moment there, Dennis. Good morning. How far is your service area, Dennis? Like how far do you cover?
I mean, I've done stuff all the way. I've done stuff as far as Loxahatchee Pump, so probably within 20 miles of the office.
So is Deerfield Beach within 20 miles?
Yes.
And if you went on a high-end listing in Deerfield Beach and somebody says, hey, Dennis, how many properties have you sold this year in Deerfield? Is that a got you question for you or no?
No, it'd be more of a, we have sold X amount of properties. I mean, you use what you're working with. I mean, you've got the Remax brand, which sells all over the place.
Okay. And if they press you and say, yeah, how about yourself, Dennis? Have you sold any properties here?
I have not, but people in my office have, and I've got a great support team to help.
Okay. So you sound pretty confident in that response, which is great. And, those are some of the ways to overcome it. Other ways are, so other than an agent that's done, 5 or 10 transactions in Deerfield Beach, what else is important to you? Like if you can, with integrity and honesty, just take that off the table and move on. And then at the end say, look, Dennis, I want to be honest. I'm not the guy that sold the property in the past 6 months here, but based upon this, I want to see if you think we'd be a good fit to work together, right? Because
Correct.
I think when I talk to a lot of our peers, they feel like that's a got you question for a lot of people. Anthony, do you feel that's a got you question, Lambiasi?
I just got on the call, so I don't know what the question was. I'm sorry, Rob.
So when you go on a listing and they say, Anthony, how many properties have you sold in Paramus in the past 6 months?
That's a gotcha question for sure.
Yes, Carly.
So being a new agent, I got that question, and I honestly answered it the same way that Dennis did. And, I went on my own professional experience, but then also said, I'm not scared to talk to my support system. And I have a great support system that I can go to, whether it's my team, my managers, the brokers. I explained all, and then that kind of led me into explaining all the resources that I have at my fingertips, being with Remax Select. So I thought, even though I didn't take it as a gotcha question, I took it as a, here's what else I have and what else I could do for you.
So being newer in the business, Carly, one of the things that I've observed is like when somebody asks a question and then we go into too much detail, we by ourselves make it more significant, right? Let me,
project done for you. With some other companies, you're dealing with a bunch of different people. When something goes wrong, the finger pointing begins.
there we go.
It's their fault. We manage the consultation, the manufacturing, the installing, and the warranty.
Okay. That was interesting. So I think sometimes, and Carly, I want you to write this down, and the word is take the bait.
But because our programs are so good, they decided to finance instead. And a lot of our customers actually pay off.
Catalina, for some reason, yours keeps going on to.
This is how their installer cares for your window.
Okay. So that's taking the bait, right? Because we want to overcompensate for the question. So do you think that in certain instances, Anthony, Dennis, or Carly, that we may overcompensate and then maybe make that more of a significant issue where they want to bring up more things to address it?
I would definitely say that that's the case, Rob. I think that, that's like opening up a can of worms to where, you kind of like get all, discombobulated, with a question like that. If you haven't really, sold anything or listed anything or worked in anything in the community that you're trying to get that listing in.
What's interesting is, as salespeople, we're conditioned to talk too much. And, if we were just to say, and this, I believe, has true integrity in the answer, and to say, hey, Carly, other than, having sold a lot of properties in real estate, can I just talk to you about some other things I might be able to do to assist you if we decide to work together? Right? Because that may be a defining point for some people, but for most people, I think the more that we talk about it, well, I have resources and I haven't sold anything. I've done this, I've done that. It kind of makes it more of an issue. We're going to have a great bunch of questions coming in, and I'm going to hit all these head on. But before we do that, I also want to go into the preliminary discussion about the listing conversation. Okay. So I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, we talked about confidence. Okay. And confidence is critical. And if you don't believe in yourself, it's unanimous, right? You remember that conversation? Like, Robert Garver, if you're not confident and you don't believe in yourself, it's unanimous, because if you're not fully sold on your services, how am I going to sit across the table and convince somebody that I'm the right person to hire? Does that make sense? Right? And sometimes, we get a pit in our stomach and we get a little bit nervous before we go out. And I think that that is self-sabotaging our own personal business when we allow that to happen. And
I absolutely agree with that, Rob. You have to be confident, because if you're not confident, they're not going to be confident in you at all.
And what some of the best performers, what they do? Who knows what some of the best performers do, which to me sounded a little bit corny, but
Before going to the event, don't they practice? Isn't it? It's like a positive affirmation.
Yes, they do affirmations in their car before they get out, and they visualize the whole process before it happens, right? And I think if you followed like the Olympic sports, I think Michael Phelps was somebody that was famous for doing that, and he was such a high performer. And in a competitive sport where like 100th of a second can make the difference, like this was allowing him to win races by 200ths of a second. Like it's not even measurable, right? The human eye can't even see that, but that's how zoned in he is on his performance. And if you look at his resume, like he won like 10 gold medals to every 1 bronze, like, and probably 10 gold medals to every 2 silver. So like it wasn't even random. It was just like almost fixed because he knew the outcome before it happened. And that's what we really need to do before we even get into the practical. And before we get into the practice. All right, Catalina, you keep going on to off mute. So we need to practice that expectation before we go there, as opposed to not having that certainty, not seeing it before it happens. Okay. So, okay. So we need to have the right mindset before we go there. And I'm going to share my screen again. So a listing conversation should be a conversational, not a canned script or presentation. A listing conversation should be conversational, like it says, not a canned script or presentation. We should do our homework, understand the market extensively, and be confident in the conversation. Okay?
It's not shared, Rob.
Oh, let me share it. This is weird. Hang on. Sorry about that. I just had to do a little housekeeping. So a listing conversation should be conversational, not a canned script or presentation. We should do our homework, understand the market extensively, and be confident in our conversation. Like we shouldn't be caught off guard by saying, hey, what about this sale that happened over here, right? Doesn't that give everybody anxiety if the seller mentions a sale and we missed it? We should be conscious of how much talking and selling we are doing and focus more on the homeowner. You should be asking engaging questions and listening attentively. You should be asking engaging questions and listening attentively. You should be talking about 20% of the time and listening 80%. Remember to be the alpha and lead the conversation. This one here is, we do this for a living. And maybe a seller sells a house once every 5 to 15 years or even longer. Why would we surrender the conversation to somebody who's doing this periodically, right? So being the alpha is not it's not an ego thing. It's a process thing. Okay. We need to lead the conversation. We need to discuss, so that the 4 P's of marketing, this is not really the objection handling, but price, product, placement, and promotion. We need to master the script. Okay. And I said a canned script versus the script. The script is knowing how you're going to answer questions before they're even asked. Okay. If I show you how I can do this, will you be prepared to make a decision? These are some of the things that we need to do. Why don't prospects list with us? They don't see the value in our service. They only see the cost, not the benefit. As a realtor, not only do we put their listing in the MLS, we syndicate, we negotiate. There's a whole bunch of items that people don't understand. Things that are, you only see the tip of the iceberg, which is the sale. Let's see. What sellers overlook when a buyer, all right, these are particular to Fizbos. So I want to go back to the questions here. Let's take a look at some of these. And, I think there has to be a lot more, Robert. These are a very short list. We'll be done in 10 minutes. I want my attorney to read the listing agreement before I sign. Robert, did you ever get that question?
Sure.
And how would you address that one?
Well, generally, I go through the listing agreement with them myself before, as I'm having the conversation with them. But I would encourage them to show it to their attorney. I want them to have a level of comfort.
So, and I don't even know if legally, if somebody can cancel a listing agreement with 3 days, but I'd say, hey, look, I'll give you 3 days to cancel the listing agreement if you review it with your attorney and there's something that concerns you. So that would not be a got me question or anything that would prevent us from doing business today. I only want a 3-month listing at a reduced commission. How to get 6%. I'm just going to read through these before I go on. A seller wants to find his own buyer, and if he does, won't pay a commission. Friend or families or realtors, these are all the basics. Bring me a buyer and I'll pay no listing. So the bring me a buyer and I'll pay no listing, that's what most for sale by owners do. And that's because they don't understand the value that we have. And I'm assuming that's like a Fizbo type of question. Let me just put this here. And the interesting thing here, Robert, I think most people have, they know how we should answer these, but they just haven't thought about it in advance, right?
Yeah, or they have an idea in their mind and they, maybe they don't want to hear it, but they'd like to hear other feedback on that and see if they're in line with what the others people feel.
So I happen to enjoy Fizbos, and some of them you don't get. And that's the painful part for some agents, because in this market, sometimes you'll talk to them and sometimes they'll sell it on their own. Sometimes the initial sale falls apart, and if you're staying in contact, you have the ability to earn their business. But if there's a Fizbo and they say, bring me a buyer and I'll pay you the buyer side, but I don't want to list my property, I go back to, and I'm going to role play with you, Robert, and say, hey, Robert, I understand that you don't really want to pay anybody to list your property, but would you be open to a 10 to 15 minute conversation about how we might be able to sell your house for even more after paying a commission, netting you more dollars?
Sure.
And do you think most Do you think most sellers would be in agreement for that? I'm going to go with like a dentist. Do you think most people would say, I'll give you 15 minutes, or you think most of them would be, no, I'm going to pay you the 2% if you bring me a buyer?
Yeah, I mean, the thing with them is just trying to get a trust so when it doesn't sell also, you know, you definitely want to see the house so you can, if you do find a buyer. But I also tell them if they have questions, please feel free to reach out. Trying to build a rapport with them throughout it also.
Right. So on this one here, and this one here, I'm confident that we all know why they shouldn't do that. But what's one of the reasons why somebody wouldn't want to do this? And I assure you I'm not stalling. I just want to get the creative thought process going from the group.
Well, if you just bring the buyer, you're doing the whole transaction.
on my big giant computer because it doesn't work sometimes.
Maybe they're not really serious about selling.
So please bring me a buyer and I'll pay no listing fee. I'll give you 2%. Okay. The first thing is they don't understand
Our value.
they don't understand negotiating terms. Okay. If a property underappraises, the deal will probably terminate, right? Like a typical seller and a buyer, an attorney is going to prepare a contract, and most of those contracts are going to say, hey, subject to the property appraising, or the financing contingency is going to require it to appraise. They don't understand the negotiating of terms. They don't understand that if an appraiser comes out there, don't we try to provide information to support the value of the property, right? Or if somebody is getting more than the recent sales, we're going to share with them that that they can get, they can negotiate a buffer on the appraisal, right? Robert and I are very familiar with negotiating away your home inspection contingency, right?
Yeah.
And just a FYI, if we do allow a buyer to proceed without doing a home inspection, it's really important to have them fill out the home inspection waiver form within .loop. I'm going to repeat that. If we are in competitive situation and the buyer says, hey, you know, I'm going to waive my contingency, we need to have them fill out that form. And that's a hot off the press from yesterday item. Beyond these logical things, here's the direction that this conversation should go. You know, Robert, if you're going to sell it on your own, okay, and buyers are coming to you through Zillow, how do you think a buyer through Zillow is going to negotiate? Do you think that they know that you're not paying a commission?
Sure.
And you think most buyers are probably going to avoid going through a realtor, try to find a Fizbos because they may want to get a deal and save the commission?
Sure.
And now, if the home is still not sold, I might say, hey, Robert, have you had any offers? And most people don't even know what a real offer is. They might just say, hey, somebody gave me a verbal offer, which to me means nothing, but it was ridiculously low. Right? Have you had any verbal offers, Robert?
No.
You had nothing, huh?
No.
And why do you think that is?
They're not seeing the value in my house.
Got it. What are you doing to promote it?
Well, I've got the sign in the yard, and I've got it up on forsalebyowner.com.
Anything else?
No, shouldn't take more than that.
Do you have it? I thought I saw it on Zillow too.
Oh yeah.
Fantastic. And what did you have to pay to get on Zillow?
I don't remember.
It was free.
Ah,
You know why it's free?
no.
Because you're not their client.
Because we pay for it.
You're not, and then people are gonna be, oh, why? Well, what happens is Zillow uses your home to sell other homes, unfortunately, Robert. And I just wanted to see if you would be open to a discussion if we could sell your house for more money, even after paying a commission. Would that be worth another 10 minutes of your time?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I'm tired of sitting home all the time waiting for somebody to come and look at it.
Fantastic. So like that's a way to break down like the mindset of a seller. And, you know, in this market, you know, sometimes, you know, you're going to go on Fizbos and they're going to sell themselves, but you just have to go next, right? But there are going to be a lot of them that aren't going to sell because homeowners have a strategy. What pricing strategy do most homeowners use?
I can always come down. I want to be able to have room
Overmarket.
to negotiate.
Right. What do we call that strategy?
Lottery.
The lottery style. Right. So most homeowners try to sell their home like they buy a car at a dealership. Oh, here's the sticker price. I'm going to have room to negotiate down. And, you know, we want to show them a strategy where they have an opportunity to negotiate up. What if I can't find a place to move to? Is this a real problem? It is?
I think in this market, it's becoming one.
Unless they're willing to rent for a while, yes. In this market, it's tough for them to make something a contingency to purchase something else.
I'm going to have to send everybody back to the inventory myth, Robert. We all forgot that already.
I just remembered that.
Huh?
I just remembered that.
Right. So if somebody says, look, there's very little inventory, you know, I'm concerned about finding something to buy. I would just say, you know what? That's interesting that you say that because here's what a lot of people think, but here's the reality. And the reality is, and that was Sarah who said that, right? Yes? Okay. So I'd say, Sarah, you know, it's interesting that you say that because, you know, there are actually more homes being sold now, almost a million more than were sold a year ago. And that means that there are more opportunities to buy for the people who are prepared. Then I would wait because, you know, if we decide to work together, Sarah, what I would do is share with you the strategy so that you can become a successful bidder on the right home before prices increase. Does that sound fair? Now we're likely to get a very good number for the sale of your home. However, when we buy, we need to be very deliberate and strategic on how we present our offers and negotiate and have the right expectations. Does that sound fair? Many of the sellers don't use the lottery style pricing. They actually price it auction style so that they can get more activity. Now, I think, Robert, a lot of people were, let me just mute everybody. So Robert, unmute yourself if you could. I think, Robert, that a lot of people, this was a serious concern. Would you agree?
Yes.
And for me, it's not a concern at all. Because if you're willing to pay the market price, right? And the market price for a lot of us, we say, that's crazy. That's not the market price because we're too close to it. But what defines market value, Robert?
I'm sorry, I'm writing down some questions.
Okay. All right. No worries.
Meeting of the minds, Rob.
So Anthony, market value is what a ready, willing, and able buyer is willing to offer, right? That's the market. That's how a market is made. So market value is determined by the market. It's not determined by us. To be honest with you, market value is not even determined by an appraiser, right? Because in many of our transactions, what are we having to do? You know, I'm going to call on Colleen. What do we have to do in a lot of our transactions to get them to go through?
Waive some of the appraisal.
Waive some of the appraisal contingency, right? Because the seller's like, I have 14 offers, you know, they're 35 to 70,000 above asking. You know, how much are you willing to accept below what it appraises for and still move forward, right? That's what's happening, because the performance of the market is exceeding the appraisal standards. Okay, so a for sale by owner or the average consumer doesn't understand this process. So we need to reverse that when they're looking to buy and say, look, when something comes on the market, we just need to be very intentional and deliberate when we find the right property so that we can be the successful bidder. And, you know, I am so much an anti, you have to lose 3 or 4 properties to understand the market. To me, that doesn't seem right. You know, that means like, you know, I see Carly, you're in front of a chalkboard there, right? So you must be also a teacher, right? That would be like telling a kid that you need to get hit by a car before you stop and look both ways, right? Does that sound like a good strategy? Who would want their kids to learn look both ways by getting hit by a vehicle? That would be a strategy, right? You would probably learn it and not forget it, but I don't think any of us want to see that happen, right? So let's embrace and let's teach and educate them on the process, because honestly, I do not, and I put the offer out there. If you have a buyer that you're struggling with, you know, let's do a Zoom meeting with them and let's assess whether or not they're committed to buying, because I think as an industry, we do a horrible job at communicating the current market conditions and what things mean. And when people are fearful, you know, what do? Do they act rationally, or do they put their head in the sand? You know, Angelique, what do people do when they don't have complete information and they're acting out of fear? You have to unmute yourself.
They take off. I had this with my buyers recently. We were doing a lot of showings months ago. They did put one offer in and then they lost it. And I really think that they just got exhausted and scared. And but I keep up with them and, you know, send them just those kind of text messages. Like, I understand how, you know, you're feeling a little nervous about this. Let's have a conversation. And we talked about it, and they're back, and we went out last night and we're going out again Saturday. So
you know, the analogy, and Carly, thank you for being in front of a chalkboard, because I think we should all remember that we don't put our children in front of vehicles to get hit to learn check both ways. And we don't need to expose our buyers to failure before they get beaten into submission or they leave the marketplace because they're frustrated. Okay. We'll go back to some questions. I want my attorney, I want a 3-month listing at a reduced commission. So if somebody says, you know, I want a 3-month listing at a reduced commission, okay, you know, I would say, you know, let's talk about the process, okay? And, you know, if we decide to work together, you know, here's how I would present your home onto the market. You know, based upon, you know, somebody's willing to list it correctly, you know, and they see the value, I think that, you know, you could say, let's table that to the end. As far as a 3-month, and in terms of a reduced commission, you know, I guess I would say let's talk about commission later. And when you talk about the commission later, in the process that I like to use or I recommend, I let them choose the commission to the buyer's agent. And then I say, now that we've selected how much we're going to pay the agent that brings us the buyer, and usually that's based upon what the competing properties are offering, I would say my fee is 3.5% or my fee is 2.5% to come up with a 5 or a 6, or could be a 4.5, whatever that number is. But if you're trying to get at least 2.5 on your side, and if the market's putting out, 2 because it's a multi-million-dollar property, or the market's putting out 2 because there are some niche markets where a lot of the offerings are at 2, you just say, hey, what would you like to offer the buyer? And here's what my fee is, right? And if you get pushback on that, you have a business decision that you need to make. How to get 6%? I think that's the same conversation that we had just above from that. Seller wants to find his own buyer, and if he does, he won't pay a commission. My conversation would be, look, I want to see if we're a good fit to work together. If you want to hire me, I am going to be the one that helps you procure the buyer and make sure that you get the best price and terms, and more importantly, ensure that that property closes. So if that's the only issue, we'll come back to that later and say, look, I'll give you, if you have people now, I'll give them as exclusions for 2 weeks. If not, then, maybe we're not the right company to work together, because we live in an abundant, in a place of abundance, not a place of scarcity. Friends or family are realtors. This is an interesting question. And the way that I would overcome this objection would be having a discussion before we meet. And the discussion would be something like, hey, Robert, if I could show you how I could sell your house for the most money, shortest period of time, does it make sense to meet? And if we meet and I show that to you, would you be prepared to make a decision when we meet on Saturday, right? And if I would hope that if they're going to say they have a friend or a family member that they'd be working with, that would be brought up before I get out there. And if they say, hey, my sister-in-law is a realtor in Ocean County, I would say, would you like to have your sister-in-law sit in on the discussion? Working with, how many homes has your sister-in-law sold up in Parsippany recently, right? And when you have an abundance mindset, you are not afraid of losing the business. Okay, you're having the conversation from a position of confidence, surety, strength when you do it. And if you say, hey, I'm not right for everybody. If your sister-in-law lists the property down in Ocean County, I don't think that she's going to be able to promote it amongst the local real estate community. You might get a few less showings. And by the way, Robert, if you have less showings, what do you think that's going to do to the price?
It'll be a lower price.
Be a little bit lower. So, if you knew for certain that you would net more money by working with me, is there any way that you can see yourself not listing the property with your sister-in-law?
Yeah, I guess, but, I want my sister-in-law to be involved somehow.
Would it be helpful if we paid her a referral fee, Robert?
I think that would be a great idea.
So if you're paying out a 20% referral fee, you need to make sure that you get at least your full 6%, right?
I would think it, at a minimum 5.5.
But I mean, this falls into the business decision scope.
Yep.
But it's not an objection that I feel uncomfortable addressing. Does anybody want to push me on that answer? Anybody not satisfied with it? Okay, let's go to the next bunch. What if I can't find a place to move? You know, I went over that one. Can I use several agents and pay whoever brings me a buyer? Great news. That's actually the way that it works. You know, you would list it with me and whoever brings you the buyer would be getting paid that commission. So let's talk about the next part, right? I've used agents before and they're only interested in getting the listing, then they disappear. Love this question. You know, if we decide to work together, Robert, you know, whatever the commission is for this, you know, selling or you're buying a property, you know, that's not that important to me. What's important to me is that, you know, I do a great job, I exceed your expectations, and that I can, you know, earn future business from you and your sphere. If, you know, you believe that I'm here just to make a 3.5% commission from selling your house, you know, I'd like to just withdraw from the conversation. And, you know, I can do it in a way that's not arrogant, but that's sincere, comes from contribution, right? I have 4 more agents to speak with before I decide who to use. I'll get back to you. So I set up the conversation where if I could show you how we can put the most money in your pocket, you know, would you be prepared to make a decision is my personal way of going about it. But I've been in situations where your colleagues have invited me out there where they were going to interview 2 or 3 other agents after us. And I've even been in a situation where they're like, you know, we're not really likely to go with you because you're not local to our property, you know, but out of a courtesy, we'll take the appointment or the conversation with you. And without even asking, you know, they're like, okay, let's get it on the market let's get it on the market 2 weeks from Saturday, and the painter will be done by Wednesday of this week, so we can have photography on Friday. Like, that's the mindset that I have. And if they say that they want to interview 3 or 4 agents, you know, I would assume that I'm the one that they're going to pick, and, you know, ask them these questions and try to get them to sign up while we're in front of them. You know, asking them before you go out there, if I could show you how I can sell your house for most money, least amount of stress, shortest period of time, you know, would you be in a position to agree to work together when we meet on Saturday? Right. And if they say, no, I still want to interview 4 people, and then you're making that decision whether you're going to go out there in the first place. Some people would say, hey, I want to wait to be last. I would probably go first, in my opinion, because I have a lot of people say that they're going to shop, and then they just make the decision without allowing number 2, 3, or 2, 3, and 4 into the conversation. Can I opt out of the listing at any time without
I'll just add one thing to that last point. This actually was part of an episode of $1 Million Listing in New York, where there was a new agent who went on a listing appointment and had the conversation with the sellers, and they said, okay, well, we have a couple more agents to speak to, and then we'll get back to you. And he said, okay, that's fine. You know, he was new. He wasn't, you know, really on top of his game, and he left. And the next agent that came in was Ryan Searhunt. And so he had his conversation with the sellers, and they said to him, well, we've got some other agents to talk to. And he was like, why? What haven't you heard from me that you need to hear in order to select me and get moving on this? And he stood there and talked to them for like 15 more minutes, and they said, okay, you got it. And that first guy never got a call back. So again, it comes back to the point that Rob made earlier about confidence. And that was a perfect example when I saw that.
Awesome comparison. Awesome analogy or actual example. Can I opt out of the listing at any time without a penalty? Do we get that question much?
I haven't.
Did anybody get that question much?
Actually, I used to get it when I was at Coldwell Banker, because Coldwell Banker had an agreement that they would share with anyone who listed a house with them. that said that if you weren't happy with the service you were getting from your agent, you would have, all you would have to do is have a conversation with the manager, and then you could be released from the listing. You know, to me, I mean, I always had the people sign the form, but they never used it because they got the service that they expected. So I think that that's another key. That's part of that other topic we've been talking about, is being, you know, giving them the service that's going to build them as a client forever.
Yep. So I mean, there are different ways that you could address it, and you know, if somebody, you know, doesn't want to work with us for whatever reason, you know, I would encourage us not to force them to stay in the agreement. I would just be cautious that, you know, if somehow, you know, you put the sign in the ground, somebody's looking to buy it, you know, they go behind our back and they try to cut a deal with the homeowner by knocking on the door, that, you know, I'd say, hey, you know what? If, you know, if you're unsatisfied, you know, and you give me, you know, you give me written notice, I'll let you out of the listing in, you know, 1 week. You know, I just want to make sure that if I have any buyers, that I can present them to you. And at that point, you know, I'll give you a release from the listing. But that's, again, that falls into a business decision. And I think it's not, I don't think that that's a very common listing killer from getting a listing. Why should I list with an agent in this very hot market? I can put a sign in the ground and sell it myself. I think that this is something that is, I think sometimes we question ourselves if we're needed to sell a property. Who on this call is brave enough to raise their hand and say, hey, you know, sometimes I question, why would a seller list with me if they can put a sign in and sell it themselves? I see one. I only see one hand. I see three, maybe four. Okay. So you could put a sign in the ground and you could possibly sell it yourself. But, you know, Jay, if I could show you a way that you could sell it for more and have it be a little bit less stressful, where, you know, we could help you negotiate with some of the terms that surround a contract, you know, would it be worth having a 15-minute conversation to discuss that? Right?
Correct. And know what I actually have I have a sheet that I would use for that question that says, on average, across America, when you use a realtor, you get 18% more. So if you use me, okay, if I were to make a business partnership with you where I get you 18% more for the house and you give me 6% of that, which means you get 12% more net, doesn't that seem like a good business proposition?
And you make the process easy, right?
Correct. And I do all the work and I take care of it, and I shield us from home inspection items, and I negotiate better terms, which is what you have me here for, is to save you money on that side of things. Because try to do for sale by owner, there's no guidance for the buyer on the other side. He's going to demand all these things from you, and that's just going to be money out of your pocket. So I'm here to protect you in that way. But anyway, that's how I go about that now, because I have a little sheet that says, hey, statistically speaking, across America, realtors, people who use real for sale by owner compared to realtors, we get 18% more. So essentially, I pay for myself.
Yep.
That's it. And it's that simple. So if I were to come to you, say, with a business proposition and say, hey, I can get you a 10% return on whatever you invest with me, most people would say that's a good decision, right?
Yep. And another transition here, Jay, if like you don't get their full buy-in, you know, I love to do this one. So Jay, when your house is sold, where are you moving to? Role play with me there, Jay.
Oh, I'm muted. Where am I going to? I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay. Let's pretend like you're moving to
Florida.
You're moving to Parkland, Florida, right?
Well, I'll use my mom as the example. I don't know. I'm going to go rent a place on the beach for $10,000 a month.
Okay. Well, I'm going to say most of the listings I've got on, people are looking to repurchase. And, you know, when I say, hey, where are you moving to? And I asked this question, Jay, are you only looking at for sale by owners? They're no, I have an agent down there.
Oh yeah.
I'll be like, that's real interesting. So you have an agent where you're going, but you're trying to sell on your own. And then I just moved to the next step. And I would say, you know, with your data, where homes sell for less, you know, well, buyers who avoid agents, you know, why do you think they might do that, Jay?
Because they want to save on commission.
Right. So they want to knock the commission off, and they want to get a good deal. And you're looking to save the commission. Who saves the commission? You know,
nobody.
Well,
nobody.
I mean, in essence, the buyer does. So you're not really doing anything. Can I get a discount on the commission? I've done all the work getting my house ready. Can you get a discount on the commission? So, yeah, normally I charge, 3.5%, but because your house is priced correctly and whatnot, you know, I can take the listing on my side for 3 if you wanted. But I mean, like a discount on commission, like, hey, I want to give you 1%. No. And I think if you educate people, they understand that better. All the realtors put the houses on the MLS and wait for it to sell. Why are you different? That's an interesting question. If you counsel them up front on, you know, how they pick their price and how you're going to present it, and you share with them relevant information, I think that it becomes self-evident how we are different. I don't know if there's anybody on the call that's, you know, I mean, Jay's talked about our listing appointment with Mike. Anyone else that's been on a listing presentation with me? We've gone together.
Sure, I have. It's Ellen.
Yeah, we unfortunately, you're one of the ones that we didn't get, but you know, I do remember that at the end of our listing conversation, the caretaker who drove around this multi-millionaire had said, you know what, Rob, you made the most sense. I don't know if you remember that, but it was very interesting.
Yep.
And to be honest, that house is not even going to sell.
Nope, it's still sitting, and it's $1 million overpriced still.
But
Rob,
yes.
I liked the part where you tell them that you're different because you care, that you're looking to have a continuing relationship with them, that this is where you get your business from doing, you know, a good job.
Yeah, I
like that a lot.
If all we do is this transaction, you know, Colleen, I would like to withdraw from consideration. Right? Like, do you think that's?
I love that.
I think it's a powerful message, right? Hey, Anthony, if all I ever do is sell this house for you and do a good job, but we never work together again, you know, honestly, you know, could I withdraw from consideration? Like, no. People would be like, what the hell? You don't want to work with me? That sends the message to where our heart and soul is. Why should I use you instead of a neighborhood expert? Well, if you are the neighborhood expert, you're going to go on that. But if you are not the neighborhood expert, per se, because you haven't sold properties there, if you are prepared, okay, I think you can be identified as that neighborhood expert. And that goes down to preparation. And preparation is not BS. Like, it's not, hey, let me BS my way through it. You need to know what your numbers are. You need to have some true value and be confident that you're the right person to do the job. All right. Sadly enough, like, you really do need to, you know, you need to perform. All this stuff of overcoming objections all presumes that we're competent in doing a really excellent job. And if you're not, you have the resources. Yes.
With that particular question, I usually just point out the principles of selling a home are irrelevant of where the property is. Same principles applied will get you the same results, is usually what I'll point out. What do you feel about that?
So,
like a guy like Robert Dukansky, right? If he hasn't sold a house in a town, he doesn't sit there and go, oh, well, I'm not the neighborhood expert, so I don't know. He goes, the principles are the same. We have a system and it works, right?
right. And I would caution us from a term that I call taking the bait, where the more you talk about it, the more significance you give to it, right?
Gotcha.
Hey, why
Yeah.
say you instead of the neighborhood expert? I'd say, look, I just want to kind of go back to where the numbers are and, share with you how I can help you maximize the price of the home. Did you decide on what pricing strategy you want to use? And if they keep coming back to it, there are a lot of agents in this neighborhood that have really poor performance. If you're not comfortable, with the strategy that we're using, that's fine. I'll withdraw, but I think that we've showed you a way that we can get you 6.2% more by, introducing your home this way and have maximum exposure. And honestly, I mean, writing down, phrases or a sentence or two here, it's more about how you say it and whether you're in rapport and you've built up the trust. And I can honestly tell everybody on this call that I've not been asked if I was a neighborhood expert when I've been on probably close to 100 listing appointments or listing presentations or listing conversations with your peers. And, they're selling themselves on working with us if you provide that value and they feel, that you really care and that, hey, if it's just a transactional relationship, I'm really not even interested. If I can do a great job, would it be fair to ask that you keep me in mind when you see anybody else looking to buy or sell? Is that a fair deal, Jay?
No, absolutely. I totally agree with it. I said it to a buyer yesterday. This is not a transactional relationship. We're just writing an offer on something. And if you're not referring me to your friends and family, then I haven't done my job as an agent, is what I suggested yesterday. So guess what we're doing today? We're writing up an offer.
Awesome. So, this whole progression of conversations and masterminds, a lot of these things are, you can't have one without the other, right? Like if you have all the answers, but you can't get into rapport, if you're not confident in your discussion, it's really going to challenge your ability to be a total agent and to be a total listing agent here. So, we live in abundance, and I'm going to go back to Ellen and say, Ellen, if, that widow that owned that property came to us and said, hey, you know what price did they list that at?
1.9.
1.9. What were we saying? 1.4, 1.3?
And that's high.
No, but that's what we were at, right?
I was telling them like below 1 point, yes, 1 point, but it has to be below 1.5. Yep.
Right. So I think we were talking about 1.4. And if they came back to us and said, Ellen, you and Rob were awesome. I really think that you're the best agent, but I liked what, Anthony said about that. I like the price Anthony gave me. If you'd be willing to take it at 1.99, we'd love to hire you. Now, I just want to ask anybody on this call if there was any hesitation in Ellen's communication there. And I believe it was from the heart and it was from caring that you don't want to do that because it's not going to yield the right outcome, right?
Absolutely.
And you'll never get a referral from that person. And you're going to work for free. So it's bad, and bad, right? So you're challenging your integrity by taking it. You're not going to get any referrals and you're not even going to get paid on it. So
Correct.
Somebody might say, hey, I might get
why are you doing it?
No, we didn't do it, Jay. Like
Well,
Ellen,
that's what I mean. So why are we doing it? Well, okay, this is a business decision. If I'm going to do these things, there's going to be no reward, and I'm going to work for free. Why am I doing it?
right? I
Am I
mean,
in this business? Am I in a
My
business?
answer would be, Jay, I can't help you get what you want based on that number, and therefore, when you're ready to look at it again, I'm here for you and I'll help you. But if we can't help you get what you want, there's no point in us moving forward, because it's detrimental to you, and you'll lose the market share and it'll age your house even further, which is what's happening.
yeah, and you know, Ellen, I think even though we didn't get it, I think we learned something, right? And we doubled down on our values, right? Which is, hey, we're not going to lie to you just to get a listing.
Absolutely.
So, you know, maybe the universe maybe she will remember when it expires for the second time to call you. And when it does expire for the second time, I think we definitely have earned the right for a follow-up appointment, correct?
Yep.
So,
Yep. Absolutely. And I feel like if we're putting it out there and it's really to help people get what they want, and in the process, we get what we want, as long as we're doing the first thing, which is to help the other people, the homes, either buy or sell, whatever that is then we get what we want in the process.
Any final questions before we conclude today?
There are some more, Rob.
Okay.
You want to take the time?
Yeah, I'll take the time to answer them.
Okay, so I'm a brand new agent. I haven't had any listings. Why should they pick me? Or conversely, why would they pick me?
So that's an interesting question. If I was a brand new agent, what I would probably do is partner with an experienced agent in my office for the first one, because half of a pie is better than no pie. And also it will be a learning experience. And if you don't have an agent, your manager or myself, we can go out there as long as the person's open to working with us. We can show them how we can sell that for most money, sure, for the least amount of stress, right? That's the deal. So that's my honest answer is, sometimes you're better off like watching an expert and doing it together and sharing in it than trying to do it on your own and provide a disservice to somebody because you haven't done it before. And that's part of integrity, I think.
All right. Here's one that says, the seller says, I need to get X amount of money for my house. You can have the rest for your commission.
I love that one. I would say, and this is the one that we listed. Maria, you still on, right? This is the one that was listed in Brielle. Seller comes down in his Maserati, or I think it was a Lamborghini. And he's like, hey, you know what? I want to list it for $3.5 million, $1 million more than it's worth. And I have to net, after all my fees, $3 million.
Right.
Okay. And, Amy and I had, anticipated, right? Anticipation is good, that somebody might have this mindset. And Amy craftily used words like, you know what? Maria, I don't want you to lose leverage in the process. And if I can even get you more than that, we're going to get that to you. But to ask for $3 million with $3.5 million with the expectation of getting $3 million will probably get you less. And then you wait and say, most of my sellers like to have leverage in negotiation. Is that a powerful word, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then she also slipped in this one. Maria, if we don't get the pricing right, you lose control of the process. Now, somebody who is a big hot shot, or maybe not even a hot shot, do your homeowners want to lose control of the process?
Nope.
Do you want to surrender leverage? Right. So when you do something like that, you lose control of the process and you surrender leverage. So I would just say, hey, I know you want to net, $3 million, but let me give you a better alternative where you don't lose leverage and you don't surrender control of the process to your buyers. Any other ones, Robert?
Yeah, can you list while I'm a Fizbo?
Can you do an open listing while I'm a Fizbo? Yeah, if you list it with us, then Robert, you're no longer a Fizbo. If you're not comfortable, let's go over the process and see if we're a good fit. Maybe I haven't communicated our value proposition well. Any other ones?
There was a reference made, I was trying to look back through them, but I can't see it exactly, but it had to do with they don't know how to negotiate inspection issues.
Well, if they don't, like, that's part of the value, like, you know, part of it is not just the price and the commission, but it's the terms. Okay. And, you know, we've done this a lot of times, and we can help you negotiate preferential terms. And most importantly, we can get you to the closing table. You know, and you know, I don't know if Robert, you mentioned it or somebody else had mentioned, I think it was Colleen mentioned, I love the fact that, you know, we're looking for a relationship. We're just not looking to get paid a commission on this deal. You know, I think that really, you know, kind of puts your money in front, you know, puts the relationship ahead of the money, and, you know, puts them in a position to say, hey, you know what, I really think that, you know, I trust that you're going to do the right thing for me, and I want to work with you. You know, it's really frustrating working with 12 different agents through my career. I want to have this relationship with somebody who cares and who has integrity and is going to give me the guidance. All right. Next week is What If I Did? It's an interesting mastermind, and the what if I did consistently, what if I did correctly, what if I mastered, what if I committed to doing certain things, you know, could we predict what that's going to do for us? And that's the conversation we're having next week. So what if I decided to do this? What if I did that? What can I expect in return for doing those items? And I would, you know, welcome you all to join us back next week. This weekend, we're doing door knocking in 2 weeks from now. I think it's the 1st, the 2nd, the 15th, and the 16th. I think I'm almost full, but if you want to do some door knocking, check with your manager, and hopefully we'll have some good stories from that experience by our next Friday's call.
Tin Pools is ready for tomorrow.
Can't wait to go out, and I want to have story-worthy experiences. Okay, that's my goal. I want to have successful story-worthy experiences to share with your group. Everybody, have a great weekend, and look forward to seeing you next week.
Have a great weekend. Bye.
Have a great everybody.
You too.
Thank you.